We're back with more of our books of the year. We've selected our 10 favorite books, music-related books of the year, which provided a little bit of a short list for those of you who want to place that list in the way of the kind of relative who might invest for you over the festive period. Is that fair, Mark?
Absolutely right. This is it's a Christmas wish list.
It's a Christmas wish list. Okay, yeah. And we move on now to I think the only fiction thing in our list, although it's not strictly fiction.
It's not fiction. It's the novelization, isn't it?
I suppose so. Yeah. It's Graceland by Bethan Roberts, who's a British novelist who was a guest of ours at Word in Your Ear at the Islington, and she was telling us how she came to Elvis via her mother, didn't she? Her mother was a crazy Elvis fan. And so she took her mother to Graceland as a bit of a treat, didn't she? And she was so enthralled by the whole experience herself that she ended up going back herself and researching a book about. It's basically about Elvis,
about his mother, isn't it?
Elvis and his mother.
Yeah,
it's the relationship between the two of them, and you probably dabbled over the years in kind of fictionalized accounts of famous rock lives. I also never quite satisfactory. Is that what you found? You must have.
I have
the odd book.
I have, but this is incredibly convincing. I think you get a real sense of the texture of what life was like growing up in the two-room shack in Tupelo, and the early talent shows and the early gigs and the fan mania and his life at school. You really get a sense of what the world he inhabited, really.
It's terribly well done. It doesn't run away with itself.
No, it doesn't.
And it's extremely well done. And also, what you have here is it's about her more than it's about him.
The book, it starts at the beginning of his life and it ends in 1958 when she dies. And you forget just what an extraordinary thing it was. His brother Jesse, his twin brother, died in childbirth, and so therefore she channels all her affection into Elvis, doesn't she? And when her husband Vernon, his dad, is in jail, Elvis is there and sleeps in the same bed as her, doesn't he, for several years? And she takes him to visit his late brother's grave, and he becomes kind of obsessed with this idea that this is the friend he never had, and talks to him, doesn't he? It's kind of like a love affair. There's a point where he says something like, "I don't need a wife when I've got you, Mama." She controls all his girlfriends.
There's fantastic scenes. Later on, obviously, because it is about when he becomes famous, first of all, but it's obviously before he goes in the army. In fact, she dies when he goes in the army, and so she suddenly has to get used to all these girls wanting a piece of him, and so the kind of traditional mother's kind of slight. Not so much, suspicion about, young women coming into the family life, with designs on her son is in her case played out on a fantastic
incredibly exaggerated. I know,
because
no girl will ever be good enough for boy.
And she goes and says she wants him to be successful, and she loves the idea that he's a successful singing star and movie star, but all these things move him away from her, and at the same time she has the natural concern about what harm is going to come to him if these girls ever got a hold of him, or the physical things that might go wrong.
Oh, and she sees that, doesn't she? She sees women tearing his clothes off when he comes off stage.
And she has a bit of a secret drinking issue, and which becomes more and more of an issue near the end of the book. She's not well. She's overweight, and she's not happy about herself, not happy about her no good husband, Vernon, who she married when he was younger. She's older than him, which is kind of
4 years older. Yeah,
makes a big difference. And he's no good. He goes off to Parchment Farm and so forth. Never does a day's work in his life. And Vernon's main interest once Elvis gets successful is the number of attractive young women who are hanging about the place, So, Gladys isn't taking to any of this at all. And of course, the break point in the book is when the draft notice arrives, that he's going to have to go in the army. And they just assume, well, the colonel is going to deal with that. That won't happen at all. But the colonel, strangely enough, comes along and says, no, I think you should go in. I don't think there's any way we can stop it. And he should go in, and he'll come out at the end of it as an all-American hero, everybody's poster boy, and he'll be a kind of enhanced property, and so she has to go through this whole process, this whole publicity jamboree around Elvis joining the army. And I'm just going to read a little bit here about when she goes with him to the drafting office. At the drafting office, Gladys tried to focus on following her son into the building without getting distracted by the crowds of reporters and fans on the sidewalk. But even inside, there are camera bulbs flashing and people yelling his name. The colonel seems to be herding him to and fro, chewing on his cigar and grinning like an alligator as he hands out balloons with the name of Elvis's new movie, King Creole, stamped on the side. Elvis somehow looks well scrubbed and rested, smiling and talking fast to anybody who asks him a question, as if he's had a solid 10 hours in bed. Gladys knows he takes a little medication sometimes when he's on the road or working long hours in Hollywood. When she asked him about it, he told her all the stars take something to help them get through, even Judy Garland, and that he would use the wash bag she made him to keep his pills safe while he was gone. The studios arranged for doctors to prescribe medication especially, he said, which he thought was very generous of them. But this morning, as Elvis signs papers and poses for picture after picture, Gladys notices his hand twitches even more than usual. The blue of his eyes has all but disappeared, replaced by the wide blackness of his pupils. Vernon holds her arm tighter than is comfortable, keeping her as upright as him. They follow the crowd back into the cars and over to the Kennedy Veterans Hospital, where Elvis is stripped and weighed and measured and has all his fingers dipped in ink and rolled across a page as if he's about to be taken to the state pen. The colonel pats Gladys's arm and whispers in her ear, "Your son is worth his weight in gold." More photos, more documents. Elvis eats an army sandwich, but Gladys can't face any food at all. Then he holds up his right hand, managing to control the twitching for a minute, and says the words, "I, Elvis Presley, do solemnly swear that I will have true faith and allegiance to the United States of America." More photos, and suddenly everyone is leaving. She must say goodbye now, and Elvis is there, right up close, still smiling, though his eyes are all wrong. But she can't smile back as he hugs and kisses her and whispers in her ear, "I'll send for you and Daddy just as soon as I can." And as the reporters push closer to Gladys, calling her name now as her son boards the bus, she finds herself uncomfortably aware of how it would look if she were to smile and wave with the others, when the newspapers have made such a great deal of her being a devoted Christian mother, whose special bond with her boy has granted him the strength to become the star he is today. She wipes her cheek and lets her mouth fall into a silent howl of dismay, just as though she were attending the funeral of her only son, and the flashbulbs blaze around her. So that's Bethan Roberts,
Fabulous. So
Graceland. Recommended.